Isang malaya at mapagpalayang gabi sa inyong lahat. Welcome to Freedom Flame 2025. I am Joy Workcom and I'm delighted to be your host for this evening. And tonight we celebrate the flame that keeps our liberal values and democratic ideals burning. Our hope, our freedom, human rights, and the courage to defend them. This evening is not just an event, because this is a reminder of why we continue to work for a freer Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, what are we waiting for? Let us now officially begin this milestone celebration. Welcome to Freedom Flame 2025! Ladies and gentlemen, to warmly open our celebration, let us welcome here on stage the Deputy Head of Mission of German Embassy. A round of applause for Mr. Matthias Kruse.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And very warm welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the German Embassy in Manila. I'm very grateful for your invitation, Friedrich Naumann Foundation, and I'm very pleased to be here. It's such a huge crowd. I'm super impressed, actually, I have to say. So very pleased to meet you all and to kick off this meeting here this evening. I was particularly honored because I think I have some experience with working with political foundations. You may be surprised to hear that, but just a couple of years ago, when working at the Foreign Ministry back in Berlin, I was working as kind of a desk officer for relations with political foundations and their activities abroad. And that is actually when I learned what a wonderful, powerful instrument political foundations are. And actually, this evening is another proof to that, since political foundations are able to really be in touch with you, with the people, and that's so important, actually. That's much more than actually we as an embassy sometimes achieve. So very grateful to be here, very grateful for Friedrich Naumann Foundation's activities. And let me also say I'm also grateful for having you, Almut, as a partner. We've been together through many years, through many joint activities, and it was not just always a pleasure, it was also always a very effective kind of cooperation, and I would like to continue this into the future. So we know the Friedrich Naumann Foundation, we know their wonderful work they're doing here in this country, and to the benefit of the country and its people, and freedom, actually, what we are celebrating tonight here, freedom is, of course, it's one of the fundamental values that we share worldwide and that we share with the Philippines in particular. And it's been one of the founding principles of Germany and is also a shared value here, shared by all of you. And that actually makes me happy to be here among friends. It's very important, and I think it was at the time when I was working at the Foreign Ministry back in Berlin. I think that was the time when the Friedrich Naumann Foundations changed their name, isn't that? It was like in the early 2000s, right, Almut? And I remember that because they made a significant addition to their name at the time. You know, it was the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. Now it's the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, and that's a program, of course. It's not just a slogan, it's a program, and that is what keeps them busy, that is what keeps them working, not just in the Philippines, in many countries of this world. And that's so important. I think we do all agree how important it is in a world of today, ladies and gentlemen, that is characterized by shrinking spaces, that is characterized by so many efforts to fight fundamental rights. I think freedom, fundamental rights, and fighting for them is probably more needed than ever. So that's why I'm grateful not just to Friedrich Naumann Foundation, but to all of you present here in the room, because your work matters, your engagement matters, and your motivation matters. Your motivation to motivate others matters. So, great job. Keep going. That's all I want to say. And I very much look forward to follow through this evening, and I'm very curious to see who the awardees will be, because that's kind of the core of this evening, I understand. So I'm very pleased to be part of that. I'm very pleased to be able to witness what is going on. Ladies and gentlemen, one last remark maybe, because many of you will know already that the Friedrich Naumann Foundation has been active in the Philippines for almost 40 years. So there's a great anniversary coming up in 2026, don't miss. And wishing you a wonderful, productive evening here. I also look forward to continued cooperation with Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom and with all of you. So thank you very much for listening, and have a very pleasant evening. Thank you.
Lubos ang aking kasiyahan sa pagdalo ninyo sa Freedom Flame 2025. Ang pagsasama natin ngayong gabi ay pagdiriwang ng ating sama-samang paniniwala sa kalayaan, demokrasya at pag-asa. Thank you. I'm not done yet. There's still some more words I will be struggling with. Ito ay pagdiriwang ng apoy na patuloy na nagliliyap sa loob ng bawat isa sa atin, apoy na nagbibigay sa atin ng lakas upang manatiling matatatak at magpatuloy kahit sa mga panahong hindi tiyak ang kinabukasan. Ang apoy na ito ay sumisimbolo sa ating tiwala sa isa't isa at sa ating patuloy ng pag-ako na pangalagaan ang demokrasya at ang kalayaan. Ipinagmamalaki nating ipagdiwang ang ika-14 na taon ng Freedom Flame. Isa itong paalala na sa kabila ng maraming pagsubok, nananatiling buhay ang demokrasya at patuloy nating ibinaglalaban ang kalayaan. We are proud to mark the 14th year of Freedom Flame, a tradition that reminds us that despite challenges, democracy endures and our freedom continues to prevail. Ang tema natin ngayong taon, Keeping the Flame Alive, Freedom in Uncertain Times, ay tumutukoy sa mga hamong kinakaharap natin ngayon. Sa gitna ng mga suliraning politikal at mahahalagang isyong panlipunan, nananatili tayong nakakaisa, matatag at determinado na panatilihing buhay ang ating apoy at patuloy na lumiliyap. Bawat tagumpay, maliit man o malaki, ay nagpapalakas sa ating demokrasya at sa ating paniniwala sa kalayaan. Upang balikan ang ating mga pinagdaanan at makita kung gaano nakalayo ang ating narating, panoorin natin ang isang audiovisual na presentasyon, Freedom Flame Through the Years. To reflect this journey and see how far we have come, let us now watch an audiovisual presentation, Freedom Flame Through the Years. Thank you.
This award honors an individual whose dedication to public service reflects a steadfast commitment to good governance, the advancement of human rights, and the defense of liberal democratic values. Our first Freedom Flame awardee is a public servant who leads with courage and conviction, and a woman who stands firm in the face of injustice and consistently speaks up for the protection of human dignity and rights. Please join us in welcoming our first awardee, the representative of the 1st District of Albay, Congresswoman Crisel Lagman.
Maray nabanggi po sa gabos. Good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for this recognition. I'm the daughter of Edsel Lagman, and I'm very, very proud to accept this also on his behalf. We will be remembering his first death anniversary in January 30. And I'm very happy that you are all here, and we still remember what he has stood for and what he has fought for. I'm also the niece of Hermon C. Lagman, one of the disappeared during martial law, and the niece of Kap Popoy Lagman. And you know that he has fought for us, for democracy. I remember growing up, memorizing this serenity prayer. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. But now I have changed that. Inspired by a scholar, Angela Davis, when she said, I will stop accepting things I cannot change and start changing the things I cannot accept. Maraming mga bagay po nangyayari sa ating lipunan na hindi natin dapat tanggapin. Dapat po panindigan at ipaglaban. Katulad na sinabi ni Kapopoy sa akin nung ako ay mga 10 years old pa lang, nung tinanong ko siya, why are you doing this, Uncle Ching? That's how we call him. And he said, baka hindi ko makita ang pagbabago sa lipunan habang ako ay nabubuhay. Pero yung mga punla na itinanim namin, ay alam ko, aanihin. Aanihin, baka aanihin ninyo. So, let the flame of freedom fire away, not just for 2026, but the coming years. Diyos mabalos giraray sa gapos.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Crisel Lagman.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our second awardee. We recognize a remarkable project that strongly upholds and advances human rights. Born from the vision and dedication of a resourceful team, this initiative stands as a significant milestone that began as a regional effort that has now grown into a model envisioned for implementation across the country. Please join us in congratulating our second awardee, the Human Rights Center Project of the Commission on Human Rights, Caraga, my region, represented by the Regional Director, Attorney Aurora Sembrano Ramos.
Madyaw nga dum kanatong tanan. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I have not prepared a message, an acceptance speech, because I was not informed. But nevertheless, it's better this way because it would come from the heart. First of all, we would like to extend our most heartfelt gratitude to FNF, headed by Dr. Almut, for the partnership and the support that they have extended to CHR Caraga. For the past years, the Commission on Human Rights have been struggling with our resources, our funding support. It has really been a struggle. It's a challenge that we, as a commission, constantly face. But with the support of FNF, the dedication of Dr. Almut's team, we were able to establish, ilang percent yun, Edson? 78% human rights action centers across Caraga region. With our budget alone, siguro nasa 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lamang. But with the support of FNF, marami pong LGUs, municipalities and cities that have established their HRACs. And not only established, but have operationalized their centers. And it's a great win for human rights in the region. Dr. Almut, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for your trust and confidence in CHR. And we look forward to more engagements, partnerships, and projects with you, not only for the people of Caraga, but for the people of the entire country. Maayong gabi ug daghang salamat sa atong tanan.
Thank you very much, Attorney Aurora.
Good evening again. For our third awardee, we honor another powerful project that deepens our awareness of human rights and remind us how stories of repression and resistance change and shapes our lives. These initiatives makes a brave and meaningful effort to preserve the narratives of the past and bring them to the present so they may guide and protect our future. What makes this project even more inspiring is that it was created by the youth and for the youth. This is a proof and evidence that the next generation is actively taking part in keeping memories and history, truth, and human rights alive. Please join us in recognizing our third awardee, the Project Ala Ala series led by Ms. Joyce Cristano, together with St. Bridget School of Agdayan and Miriam College Magnificat.
Thank you very much. That was a real surprise, a very pleasant one. My dear friend Almut, thank you. I told her I was going to attend either way. But yes, so this award is not just for me or just for Project Ala Ala. It is for the group of students who I have worked with. And yes, the very first set of students came from the St. Bridget School, Quezon City. And I'm very happy that one of them is with us here now, Isa. She wrote Anna. I don't know if FNF has copies of the book, but we have some of the books. And Anna was launched actually by FNF in February of this year in time for the February People Power Revolution, when it was first attempted to be erased from our official calendar of holidays. It's our way of fighting historical revisionism or even denialism. And we are happy that this year we gained another school partner, and that's Miriam College High School. So to those students who have joined the group of what we call the memory keepers and truth bearers, this award is for them. To the young leaders who are out there fighting, continue to fight for our freedom, this award is for them. And also I want to dedicate it to my family, my children who are here, Jeremiah, Solomon and Veronica, and Isaiah, and my husband Chuck, because I would not have been able to do it by myself. And of course, my very lean and mean Project Ala Ala team who are also here, Pixie and Charles. But most of all, to my dear friend Almut and her dynamic team, Yan Yan Pai, and the rest of FNF Philippines, because what started out as a project in my master's program has now become an ongoing endeavor to keep freedom alive and to keep the memories of those who have gone before us. And we focus on the stories of children who suffered during martial law. Usually it's their stories that are not told. We hear about politicians, we hear about the activists, the journalists, but hardly do we hear about the children who suffered just because they happened to be children during the time of martial law. And so again, thank you very much, FNF Philippines, FNF for Freedom, and we continue to be a partner in this. Maraming salamat po, vielen Dank.
Thank you very much, and congratulations once again, Ms. Joyce Crisanto.
Bago ko ipakilala yung fourth awardee natin, gusto ko lang makita. Taas ng kamay yung mga mamamayang liberal dito. Dami, no? Ang lalakas niyong kumain. Tinignan ko yung buffet bago ako umakyat dito, ubos lahat ng pagkain. Buti na lang naghanda yung FNF ng dagdag na pagkain. May after dinner, nakita ko, uubusin nyo na naman yan. Diba? Pero, dahil ang mga Pilipino talaga masarap kumain, alam natin na yung paboritong Ricardo sa pagkain ay bawang. Diba? At yung bawang kasama sa lahat ng pagkain para sumarap. Tama? Tama, di ba? And sa politika, may tinatawag tayong mga commander bawang. Lahat ng trabaho natin, kasali sila. Di ba? Think tank, yung bababa sa mag-bold, mag-orientation, mag-organize, laging kasama sila. Para sa mga liberal, para sa Liberal Party, para sa mga mayang liberal, ito yung mga commander bawang natin. Diba? So, kailangan pala formal ako. Sorry. For our fourth awardee, we recognize an organization whose unwavering commitment to advancing liberal principles, democratic governance, and active civic participation has helped shape the democratic discourse in the Philippines. A cornerstone of liberal thought, this institution has long served as a think tank for freedom and liberalism, consistently standing with us in promoting democratic values and open societies. At malalakas din silang kumain. Please join us in honoring our fourth awardees, the Center for Liberalism and Democracy, to be represented by its chairperson, Mr. Jerry Bulatao. Palakpakan natin.
Magandang gabi po sa lahat. On behalf of CLD, thank you so much to FNF for this recognition. Thank you rin kay Kit for calling us Commander Bawang. Kasama rin naman siya doon. Kasama ko rin sa CLD, nandito yung managing trustee namin, si Miss Carrie Season. Kanina kasama ko sa stage, si John Coronel, presidente po ng CLD. Pero ang talagang nagtatrabaho sa CLD, si Mr. PJ Lanes at si Mr. Geno Cumla ang nagpa-programa sa Kontragapi kanina. Siya yung dating spokesperson ng Kontragapi. I guess, binigyan kami ng award ng FNF kasi we always show up. We under-promise but over-deliver at maayos kami mag-accounting. Siyempre, it's our pride to support liberalism in the Philippines. Lalo na nung nag-post si Kong Kit ng galing yata sa neoliberal yun, Kit, no? Ng atake sa liberal dahil ang sabi sa video, ang liberalism is about accumulating capital. Sabi naman namin, no, liberalism is all about freedom. Kaya maraming salamat sa FNF for freedom.
For our final awardee of the evening, we honor an organization whose courage and determination in the face of disinformation has made it a powerful symbol of standing up for truth and justice. This organization embodies integrity, resilience, and the principles of ethical journalism. They have demonstrated that principled reporting is essential in a thriving democracy. I can say that this organization serves as a role model and an inspiration to all who value freedom, accountability, and the pursuit of truth. Please join us in recognizing our final awardee of the night, Rappler. to be represented by Head of Community, Pia Ranada.
It is such a great honor to accept this award on behalf of Rappler's founders and our repertorial staff, also our community engagement staff, and everyone at our newsroom. I think the past few months have shown us how journalism still has the power to tell stories that can move communities forward. And I think the flood control corruption, all the investigations we've been doing, all the crowdsourcing initiatives that have gotten citizens to speak up about the anomalous infrastructure projects in their regions, it shows that democracy is very much alive in the Philippines and citizens do want to hold their government accountable. And I think more than anything, this is what powers Rappler and gives us hope. I'd really like to thank Dr. Almond for the continued support of FNF. Long-standing partner po talagang FNF for Rappler, and we're really, really thankful for all the help that we've been getting, not just from FNF, but from our community of readers and from our supporters. Sobrang hirap po maging journalist ngayon sa Pilipinas. It's not just the usual repression and the threats of cyber libel and libel in the Philippines, but even now the economic forces at play, AI, disinformation, it's really so much harder to keep newsrooms alive. And let's not take for granted the journalists who do investigations, even if they're not viral at first. Investigations take months, even a whole year in Rappler's case. They're very expensive and time-consuming, and they're very dangerous. So we're really, really happy that people are reading our stories again and watching our vertical videos. Sa TikTok na po kami. So marami pong salamat for spreading the news and for patronizing journalism in the Philippines. That's what really powers us, and let's look forward to a more interesting 2026, and let's keep the flame alive always. Maraming salamat po.
Good evening, everyone. To our friends from the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, Dr. Almuth, the representative from the German Embassy. It's a privilege to stand before you tonight and introduce our distinguished speaker. She's a renowned Filipino lawyer and human rights advocate whose dedication to justice, democracy, has shaped the course of our nation. I first met our speaker in 2008. I was the chairperson of the House Committee on Human Rights, and when her name was mentioned as being the appointee of then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, I said to myself that even if the distinguished speaker has no experience in the issues of human rights, I truly believed that the distinguished speaker would fly as the next chairperson of Human Rights, the Commission on Human Rights. To her surprise, and I'm sure she remembers this, a few days after her appointment as chairperson, I suddenly dropped by her office to pay a courtesy call. And she stood up and said, "Kong Erin, mukhang baliktad yata. Dapat ako yung pumupunta sa inyo." Sabi ko, hindi. Para sa akin, baliwala ho yun. No? Kayo po ang chairperson ng Human Rights. Ako ay chairperson ng House Committee. Tama lang ako yung pupunta rin sa iyo. So we had our discussion, and my second term and as chairperson in the House Committee, and her being chairperson of the Commission on Human Rights, led to the passage of laws that we told ourselves that we would pass. One of them is the anti-torture law, which for such a long period of time was pending. And the other law that the Commission supported was the domestic version of the international humanitarian law, the bill that was passed, which became law in 2009. And To the surprise of many, it was the bill, it was the law that was used as the justification to send former President Rodrigo Duterte to the ICC. As we all know, our distinguished speaker became the Secretary of Justice from 2010 to 2016 and became the Senator of the Republic from 2016 to 2022. Throughout her career, she has courageously, and let us put an emphasis on courageously, not like one current senator who seems to have, well, in Tagalog, in a Tagalog anecdote, yung bato naging buhangin. Confronted injustice. She initiated investigations in the extrajudicial killings that occurred during the so-called war on drugs, launched by former President Rodrigo Duterte. And as CHR chair, she opened inquiries into his involvement in extrajudicial executions during his tenure as mayor of Davao City. On politically motivated charges, she was arrested on February 2017 and endured over 6 years in detention. Today, she continues her fight for justice as a steadfast advocate of human rights and as a representative of Mamamayang Liberal. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Congressperson Attorney Laila De Lima.
Maraming salamat po. You may take your seat. Maraming salamat, Kong Erin, always a gentleman. Thank you. Kumusta po kayo? I almost did not make it. My flight from Bacolod got delayed. Buti na lang, hindi na-cancel. The Deputy Head of Mission of German Embassy, Excellency Matthias Kujie, Dr. Almont Besold of FNF Philippines, of course, Kong Erin Tanyada, LP President, Kong Kit Belmonte, different sectors all over Metro Manila. Nandito din daw po from CHR Caraga. And of course, from PPVR Caraga, Ms. Chit Asis, and Attorney Wilfred Asis. Good to see you again. Friends, allies, mga ka-ML, fellow liberals, fellow awardees. Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Almont Besold, and to everyone in Frederick Norman Foundation family for this generous and humbling honor. To receive the Freedom Flame in a year like 2025 feels both deeply personal and profoundly political. Personal, because I stand here tonight as someone who spent almost 7 years behind bars for daring to question a murderous policy and a culture of impunity. Political, because those years were never just about one woman in a cell. They were about the kind of country we allow ourselves to become when lies gain power, when fear becomes policy, and when institutions surrender their spine. Tonight, you describe me as a freedom speaker. Before I speak about freedom, let me first speak about the times in which we gather. We live in a season of pressure. Out at sea, our fishermen face water cannons and aggressive maneuvers from Chinese vessels in waters that feed their families and sustain our nation. In our own information space, armies of trolls and paid propagandists pound on citizens every day, insisting that what we see with our eyes and feel in our bones is fake news, that our West Philippine Sea belongs to someone else, that our history can be edited like a social media reel. Inside our borders, drivers and commuters still struggle with the so-called modernization program that treats jeepney drivers as disposable, even though they have carried our people and our economies for generations. Families line up at public hospitals, anxious that the health system will fail them after billions in PhilHealth funds were diverted and only recently ordered returned. Communities and advocates endure red tagging, harassment, and disinformation that target anyone who dares to dissent. These uncertain times go far beyond an abstract mood. They appear in the fisherman clutching a wounded arm while seawater pours into his damaged boat. They appear in the jeepney driver watching the last day of his livelihood approach like a deadline on a legal memo. They appear in the nurse wondering if PhilHealth will still be there for her patients. They appear in the student scrolling through a feed where lies trend faster than facts and wondering which version of history will govern her future. When we speak of keeping the flame alive, we speak of these lives. We speak of freedom as something that must reach the shoreline, the barangay road, the hospital ward, the tricycle terminal, the classroom, the courtroom, and yes, even the crowded timeline on our phones. For me, the flame of freedom has always had two sides. The first is the inner fire, the stubborn conviction that human dignity has weight, that truth has substance, that justice deserves loyalty even when it demands sacrifice. This is the flame that sustained me when the prison gates closed behind me in 2017. In those years, I learned that a cell can shrink your world, yet letters, prayers, news clippings, and the memory of marches outside the PNP Custodial Center in Camp Crame keep that world open and wide. Every time a mother brought her children to stand outside the jail and shout, "Laban Laila." Every time students carried placards insisting that political prisoners deserve justice. Every time a journalist insisted on covering my case despite pressure to ignore it, that flame grew brighter. I was the one detained, yet I saw how many others refused to consent to that injustice. Their courage made my resistance possible. The second side of this flame is collective. Freedom in a democracy lives in institutions, norms, and everyday arrangements. It lives in independent courts that call an abuse of the budget process by its real name, even when the amount involved reaches 60 billion pesos. It lives in a Coast Guard sailor who still sails towards our own shoals despite Chinese threats and water cannons, because his uniform is a promise to protect Filipino lives and sovereignty. It lives in unions and transport groups that hold strikes to demand a modernization program that includes drivers instead of erasing them. It also lives in foundations like yours. The Friedrich Naumann Foundation has spent years in nurturing liberal values of freedom, responsibility, human rights, open and digital society, and a social market economy. Tonight's gathering is part of that work, a community of people who refuse to treat liberty as a museum prize or a museum piece, and instead handle it like a tool for present struggles. So what does it mean to keep the flame alive in this moment, in this country? First, we defend factual truth as a public resource. In the West Philippine Sea, the battle covers reefs and shoals, and just as fiercely, narratives. Chinese gray zone tactics go hand in hand with disinformation campaigns that seek to blur the 2016 tribunal ruling, sow doubt among our people, and normalize harassment at sea. When trolls flood our feeds with lies, they corrode the very ground on which democratic deliberation stands. As a legislator, I see this as a call to strengthen protections against organized disinformation, to support independent media, to boost public information campaigns that tell the truth about our rights under international law, and to invest in digital literacy that equips citizens to recognize manipulation. As freedom advocates, our task is to ensure that facts remain visible, accessible, and compelling. Second, we expand the perimeter of safety for those who resist. Across sectors, people who speak up absorb the blows of power. Fishermen in Zambales and Palawan, jeepney drivers in Metro Manila, health workers exposing corruption in hospitals, indigenous communities protecting ancestral lands, students and teachers who push back against historical revisionism. When they sense that lawyers, journalists, faith leaders, and civil society will stand with them, the flame grows stronger. I say this as someone who survived because networks of solidarity refuse to disappear. Amnesty International, human rights organizations, local and international churches, lawyers, groups, and ordinary citizens treated my case as a test of our democracy. The solidarity did more than free one political prisoner. It reminded the world that authoritarianism always miscalculates the courage of those it tries to silence. Third, we build economies and institutions that honor freedom in practical ways. A worker trapped in precarious employment, a family crushed by medical debt, a driver forced into debt to finance a modern unit he cannot afford, a fisherman whose catch vanishes because foreign vessels control his waters, a young person whose vote rests on patronage because no other options present themselves. These citizens live with a freedom that feels fragile and conditional. As liberals, we speak of a social market economy for a reason. Markets need rules that protect the vulnerable, institutions that prioritize public goods, and states that treat social services as instruments of empowerment rather than favors from the powerful. The recent Supreme Court ruling on PhilHealth offers more than a technical legal victory. It reminds us that when we defend the proper use of public funds, we protect the freedom of every Filipino to seek health care without fear of abandonment. Freedom also demands courage in foreign policy. We are a small archipelago facing a giant neighbor, yet our people show remarkable resolve in insisting that our waters, resources, and dignity matter. From resupply missions to Ayungin Shoal, to documentaries that bring the stories of our fishers to global audiences, Filipinos prove every day that sovereignty lives in human faces. When the world sees the bruises on a fisherman's body and the splintered hull of his bangka, they see the real cost of geopolitical ambition. In these struggles, the flame of freedom appears in many forms. A legal petition filed before a court, a boat that refuses to turn around, a strike that halts traffic but opens a broader conversation, a whistleblower who releases documents, a content creator who risks harassment to tell a more honest story. This is what should prevail. As I have said many times in the past, the post-Duterte era will be a period of reclaiming and mending back destroyed values and institutions. Never has our society been damaged to such an extent as to come very near to the impossibility of recovery. The Duterte era pushed the envelope on kakistocracy, the rule of the least qualified, the most incompetent, and the most corrupt. It showed us the extreme possibilities of corruption and the extent that the utter disregard for the rule of law can reach. It glorified ignorance and praised indecency in a way never seen or attempted before in our entire history as a nation. Most significantly, for the very first time, not only government, but almost an entire population accepted the legitimacy of murder as a policy tool for governance and model for development. We call this Dutertismo, which simply means the worst and most criminal of governance planted on the fertile ground of both secular ignorance and cult religions. It was the product of decades of miseducation and political infantilism that benefited the domination of Philippine society by a small minority of clans and dynasties. In a sense, Dutertismo can be said to be the logical outcome and progression of the mutant form of democracy in the Philippines. The scholar Ben Anderson calls this Koshik democracy, the political system of local bosses who controlled resources and treated voters as private chattel to fuel electoral victories in pseudo-democratic processes. Duterte was one of these local bosses, is one of those local bosses. Nandiyan pa po pala siya. But unlike the rest of them, he possessed the charisma of history's most successful demagogues that in turn enabled him to take hold of the consciousness of a nation and make them believe, not with great difficulty in a society forged in violence, that killing one's neighbors was the solution to all their national problems. It was a Hitlerite vision that captured a people's macabre imagination of how national redemption can be achieved through a process of systematic social cleansing. I've always said that whoever comes after Duterte's destruction of Philippine moral values and social institutions has an almost impossible task before him. Sure, the difficulties undergone by the BBM administration can be attributed to his own kind of phlegmatic, visionless leadership. But there is definitely no doubt that a major part of the problem is the extremely corrupted government that he has inherited from the Davao kakistocracy. This is where we are now. These are the waters we are presently navigating in a ship that has lost its moral compass, on a voyage to regain our spiritual bearings, or what Hegel calls a nation's Volksgeist. Duterte has ripped that apart. Our singular mission is to mend it back without returning to the cesspool of kachikism from where all our mutilation and degeneration as a people comes from. We will achieve this mission despite the damage to our national psyche inflicted by the past regime. Beyond the culture of our people that allowed the normalization of extrajudicial killings is a love for others that equally transcends explanation in much the same way that acceptance of the killings has baffled us. This is what we should tap into, not the hatred and conflict that Duterte planted in our hearts and minds, poisoning our spirit. The Filipino is a fighter. Sometimes he is fooled and capitulates. He is also capable of betraying his own neighbor. At his worst, he will blindly follow a leader in a most extreme form of loyalty. But that is not what will prevail. The freedom I'm enjoying now and my experience as a whole are the very proof why this is not what will prevail among us Filipinos. When I walked out of jail, I carried two kinds of memory. One was of suffering, the smear campaigns, the humiliation, the long nights when despair knocked loudly, and the other was of grace. The rosary slipped into my hands, the letters from strangers, the quiet determination of my legal team, the global human rights community that chose to see my case as part of a wider assault on democracy. Those two strands, suffering and grace, now run through everything I do in public life. They guide the way I read policy, the way I listen to testimonies, the way I weigh every new abuse of power that reaches my desk. Every bill on criminal justice, on terrorism, on public order comes to me with the faces and stories of women deprived of liberty whose cases I encountered through letters, legal papers, court hearings, and brief encounters in the corridors. My own isolation inside a small cell sharpened my awareness of how a single signature, a single policy choice can decide whether a woman will watch her children grow up in freedom or through layers of barbed wire. When we discuss disinformation, I remember the campaigns that turned me into a caricature to prepare the ground for my arrest. When we debate the West Philippine Sea, I think of the same machinery of lies that now tries to turn our people against those who defend our waters. So when you honor me tonight, you honor a community of resistance that stretches far beyond this hall. You honor the fishermen in Masinloc and Palawan, the indigenous communities whose ancestral domains are threatened, the jeepney drivers in Commonwealth, the health workers in our public hospitals, the human rights defenders who remain on the front lines, the youth who march in the streets and create new forms of digital activism, the journalists who pursue stories even when it endangers them. To all of you here, to the FNF network, to our partners in civil society and government, to my fellow liberals, let me offer 3 invitations. First, sharpen your analysis. Our enemies stay busy. Authoritarian tendencies evolve. Disinformation mutates. Corruption adapts to new technologies. The same courage that carries protesters to the streets must also compel us to study budgets, trace disinformation networks, interrogate laws, and understand how global dynamics affect our local realities. The flame burns brightest when accompanied by clarity. Second, deepen your alliances. Freedom thrives when sectors cooperate. When fisherfolk and lawyers, jeepney drivers and climate advocates, tech experts and grassroots organizers, human rights defenders and local business owners find common cause. Let us build coalitions that outlast electoral cycles, coalitions grounded in principle rather than personality. Third, hold on to hope with discipline. Authoritarian projects feed on the sense that change feels impossible, that every fight ends in disappointment. My own story stands as one small counterexample. For nearly 7 years, many people could have given up on my case. They chose persistence instead. That persistence freed me. In the same way, persistence can reclaim stolen funds, defend the West Philippine Sea, protect civic space, and raise a generation that expects better from its leaders. Mga kasama, mga kaibigan, sa gabing ito, hawak ng bawat isa sa atin ang tig-iisang sindi ng pag-asa. Ito ay ilaw na may malinaw na direksyon. Ito ang ilaw na ginagabayan ng prinsipyo, tapang at malasakit. Sa bawat pagkakataon na pinipili nating magsalita kaysa manahimik, kumilos kaysa magbulag-bulagan, makisama sa taong bayan kaysa sumama sa makapangyarihan, humahaba ang buhay ng apoy na ito. The theme of this year's Freedom Flame speaks of keeping the flame alive. Freedom in uncertain times. I believe we can go one step further. We keep the flame alive and we carry it forward. We take it to darker places, to forgotten communities, to contested waters, to crowded courtrooms, to noisy streets, to the digital spaces where lies attempt to reign. Thank you, FNF Philippines, for trusting me with this honor and the responsibility. Thank you for standing with Filipinos who insist that liberty, human rights, and democracy still matter, especially when they are hardest to defend. And as I accept this award, I offer a pledge. I will continue to live as a public servant whose measure of success is simple. Kahit mahirap abutin, that every year a few more Filipinos breathe a little easier, speak a little freer, walk a little taller in their own country. Again, thank you. FNF, maraming salamat at mabuhay ang kalayaan.
Hi everyone! Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Isang mapagpalayang gabi po sa inyong lahat. As we continue our meaningful program, we are reminded that tonight is not only about recognizing awardees, but also honoring all of us who have shared the journey together. This gathering is a moment to reflect on how our freedom endured through crisis, adapted through change, and also remained resilient. We move forward with deep gratitude, knowing that every step taken in every challenge, we have overcome this. And this was made possible by our partnership together with each and every one of us. This evening is not only a celebration of freedom, but also a recognition of a collaboration that kept its freedom alive even up until today, even in the most uncertain time. This year, we felt that it's important to pause and also look back, especially during what happened during the pandemic, to gather our shared memories and place them in one home. A home where our stories can be read, remembered, and passed on across ages. These are stories of solidarity, courage, and also persistence of each and every one of us in advancing human rights, democracy, and liberal values here in the Philippines. It is with great pride to present to you the FNF book entitled Rights and Resilience, Stories that Shaped 2020 to 2025. This book is a collective treasure, basically. It is not only a work of art by only FNF or just one institution, but this is a reflection of what we have built together. Within its pages are initiatives, partnerships, and collaboration that defined our journey, from the height of pandemic to the present day. Despite the challenges over the past years, we are still here. We have endured, adapted, and continue to act. Alam niyo yan. Proving that even uncertain time, freedom can be sustained when we work together, right? We now invite you to watch our very short presentation of our pages of our book, a testament on how we have kept the flame alive. Some of the books are available in our registration areas, but definitely we'll be bringing that to your home, to your organization. So panoorin po natin to.
Magandang gabi po muli sa inyong lahat. Don't be afraid, I won't continue this time in Tagalog. I'm malu. I'm truly delighted that tonight we were able to honor such deserving individuals and to hear an inspiring message from our freedom speech speaker, Kong Laila de Lima. Congratulations to all our awardees. You are genuine bearers of freedom and hope. I'm also proud to share our book, a collection of memories from the most challenging times of the pandemic. It stands as a statement to our collective courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to democracy. Taos puso ang aking pasasalamat sa inyong lahat, sa ating mga partner, kaalyado at kaibigan, at lalo sa aming FNF team. Si Yanyan Aranya, ang aming project manager. Si Grace, ang aming project associate. Si Pai, ang aming communications officer. Si Erica, ang aming finance officer. Si Jean, ang aming finance assistant. Si Ate Jo, ang aming office assistant. At sa aming mga interns, Kim, Isabel, Louise, and Francis. Dahil sa inyong sipag at dedikasyon, naging posible ang lahat ng ito. Maraming salamat po. Hindi na ako magtatagal, ngunit nais kong formal na ipahayag na ang FNF ay magpapatuloy sa kanyang mission. This may be something I have shared before, but it is truly a milestone worth celebrating here tonight and on this very stage. May I now invite my FNF colleagues to join me on stage. And with that, I invite everyone to stand up and raise your glasses for a celebratory toast. This is not only a toast to the victories we have achieved, but also to the challenges we continue to face together. It's a toast to hope, perseverance, and the enduring flame of freedom that burns within each of us. May we carry this spirit forward in our work, our communities, and in the generations to come. To democracy, to courage, and to hope. Cheers.
Cheers for FNF Philippines! Cheers for democracy, courage, and hope! Congratulations once again, FNF Philippines, and cheers to freedom, democracy, and hope for the Philippines! As we conclude this night, let us enjoy our evening with more drinks, more conversations, and company of our fellow advocates of freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a night of celebration, bonding, and strengthening our shared commitment to a more liberal and freer society. Don't forget also to capture your moments tonight and tag us on our social media channels. We have It's All About Freedom on Facebook and at FNF Philippines on Instagram. You guys can see, of course, our handles for FNF Philippines. We have, once again, It's All About Freedom on Facebook and at FNF Philippines on Instagram. You can see our handles on our LED screen. And make sure that when you post online through your social media accounts, use our hashtags Freedom Flame 2025 and hashtag Keeping the Flame Alive. Ladies and gentlemen, the night is still young. You can still bond with your friends, talk, have conversations, and rally for a freer Philippines. This is Joy Barcoma, your host, and this has been Freedom Flame 2025. This event is brought to you by Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom Philippines. Enjoy the rest of the evening and enjoy a freer Philippines.